Anthony Edward Hunter. Sir Anthony Hunter was born in Guy's Hospital, 4th of June 1952, a South London boy. The only child to Joan and Eddie, a whopping 10 pounds. His mum's looked like a gorilla when he came out, he was so hairy. He started school in St Michael's in Bermondsey, and his claim to fame was that he sat next to Michael Barryman. At the age of 5, he had his tonsils out and he went to Evelina's Children's Hospital. When he came home, his mum and dad moved, not deliberately, and he lived and this was a 42 Bolton house where he lived until he married Mary. Hunter's oldest mate was Tony Worley. Tony used to push Hunter around in the flats in Bermondsey in the pram. Tony was 5 years older than Hunter, but they remained lifelong solid friends. Tony left school early, little or no qualifications, but with an eager to go out and graft and earn a few quid. He was a butcher, did a few other things, and then he became a glazer. And his glazing took him all over the world, took him to Saudi Arabia, took him to the West Indies, took him to Trinidad. And his apprentice at that time was the monk. He was here a day, I saw him outside, and he appeared later on. Tony was a keen boxer. He boxed above Thompson Beckett in Old Kent Road. He boxed for the Lynn Boxing Club. And he famously sparred with John Conte. Tony's love of boxing stayed with him all his life, and he had lots of boxing memorabilia, which was one of the things he loved. And I'm sure many of you have been around the house and seen all that stuff displayed around him. In 1973, Tony married Mary in Kentish Town. Always a dedicated follower of fashion, he was wearing a brown flared suit, sporting a bushy moustache and long hair. It's one of them things that one of my favourites with Tony was starting grasses, wet moustaches, and you see the photographs, and there he was with his great big figure. Mary tells a story that one of the things she was first attracted to him was this shoulder-length long hair that he had, and the bottle of gin that he had in his back pocket. Tony called Mary his turtle dove. They were barely apart in their 42 years of blissfully happy marriage. Michelle was born in Enfield in 1976. Dino followed on 4 years later. And it's during that time they relocated from Enfield down into where their home is now in Kent. Tony joined the Daily Mail in his early 30s and worked there for 28 years before retiring. However, working is probably a bit of a euphemism for what Tony used to do at the Daily Mail. Because I was chatting with Dino last week, we were sharing the stories about what Tony used to say, because obviously he'd print the paper at night, he'd be doing stuff all day long, he'd be out shooting or he'd be doing whatever he was doing down the pub drinking. So if he was a bit tired, probably somebody else would press the button while he had to sleep in the cupboard. So that was what he used to have to do. Tony and Mary bought the Blackpool 13 years ago, and as you know it was an old pub. They set up their own bar and hosted many a party now. The neighbours never complained because they was always invited. People often passed by the Blackpool thinking it was still a pub. And there was a young lady knocked on the door one day. "Excuse me, mister, can I use your toilet?" "Yeah, no, that's all right. Can all my mates as well? We're doing this trip in Edinburgh, walk down the road. And so 14 of them all coming in and use the cars in their house. It's nice. He's a nice man." Tony's mum, Joan, moved down a couple of years ago as well, just to be near her, Tony and Mary, and she's here today. Tony was diagnosed with cancer 2 years ago, and it was a long and difficult journey. However, he faced it really with positivity like you couldn't believe. He never complained, so it was really, really great for him. Tony had a great passion for Ireland. Often I thought of it as his spiritual second home. He'd be going over there, and his stories of the crack that he would have out there is unbelievable. Often going to the sonic meetings with Charlie. Tony was blessed with 2 grandchildren. Little Finn, who's picked up loads of his sayings and loads of his phrases already. Popsy. And in April, young Teddy was born, and everyone's delighted that Tony got to meet and know his second grandchild. Tony also had 3 godchildren, Wayne Morley, Daisy McVie, Jack Monroe, and he adored all of them. When I asked him for a few anecdotes, I was exchanging texts and emails with Dino and Michelle, and we've got stuff coming back and forth. And some of the stuff you can't mention here, Dave. I just say you can't mention really church, so we sort of can't mention. We got stuff went, it's too risky, you can't listen to that stuff going on. Tony Woolley said the same thing. He said, I can tell you, but some of it might be slightly illegal. Tony tells a story where they was in on a light in the 70s, and they went in the Newmarket bar, and Tony sort of shines and the horse leathers in there. They went back in the next day, and Tony said to the barman, it's a bit bare in here, mate, isn't it? He went, yeah, I can't believe it, somebody broke in into the gear last night. Tony just smiled and ordered another large gin or something. Despite being larger than life, Tony did play his cards very, very close to his chest. In the 80s, he received a Royal Humane Society award for saving 2 people's lives. He was in his red speedboat, Darling Mary, just off All Hallows, and there was a Mayday shout went up. A couple of people had gone out in the dinghy had gone over, they couldn't swim. So quick as a flash, Tony was with the monk. They jumped in the boat, went out and saved them. They got the awards for bravery, and they both got noted in the local paper as heroes. Tony had many nicknames throughout his life: Hunter, Saranth, the Duck Man. The latter came from when Michelle was about 8, and Tony decided it was a really good idea to buy her a birthday present. So he brought it home, and he got 2 ducks, wrapped them up in silver foil, put them in a tin, and gave them to Michelle for her birthday. She opened it in the kitchen, and they shit all over the floor. Mary wasn't very happy at all, was she? Wasn't very happy. Another of our passions was his scooter. We all saw it as we came through the scooter club. Algy tells us that without saying any help, they wouldn't have raised the 30 grand that they'd done over the period. And a lot of that was going to the cerebral palsy unit up at Cliffwoods, just drove through there all the way through. Barbecues at Tony and Mary's house, raffling tennies that we got from Palaval and Shaquille, and ride-outs with the Aces. They were on one ride-out particularly from Rochester, and they were going down to Margate and had a film crew with them. It was a really hot day, really hot day. The film crew wanted them to wear their parkas, so they got their parkas. So they're all riding down, the film crew's doing it, and they get outside of Margate, and the old girl there stopped, oh, hang on a minute. And Tony was right at the front. He was like Steve the quadrophenia, right? He's the governor, he's out the front. So he gets off, and the young girl's going, you've got to wait 5 minutes. Jesus, Tony's hot here, isn't it? So he takes his parka off, and underneath it, typical sartorial elegance to the end, he's got a stripy shirt on. And the copper said, you know, mate, you're going to fit in down the seat front, you look like a people deck chair. Some of Tony's passions came in later in life, and I suppose that happens to a lot of us. Rugby was one of them. Tony got into rugby in the last probably 10 or 15 years of his life, and he absolutely loved it. He adored it. He liked the fact that he could go, there wasn't aggravation, it was good fun. And I know that in the last few weeks, him and Dino had a bet on the Rugby World Cup final, and both of them bet on the winning the top try scorer. Okay, he didn't get to see that, but we both celebrated that, mate. We both celebrated that. Vintage cars was another. Tony's Austin 10 was out there, which is a beautiful thing which he loved. Portugal's another thing that came to him later in life. Tony's stories with cars go on, they're kind of legendary. I first met Tony, and I'll come to that in a minute, 35 years ago, and he was working with me. He looks after me, that's what he did. He looks after me, my daughter, my bub, he looks after me. And he did that to buy a car for Mary, the Fiesta, the Fiesta. And then there were a few cars came and went after that, and then we had the Mercedes, right? The Mercedes, which had 2 sets of tyres every year, but only did 4,000 miles a year. The garage couldn't work it out. They couldn't work it out, but Tony had worked it out, because he knew the fuse in the back. If he took that out, his journey back and forward to the Daily Mail every day, he never recorded it on the mileometer, so it's good. Tony loved his children, his beloved children. The nutty Dino, the terrorist that he used to say to me was his there. He was absolutely proud of his punch that he was following his own path in life, following his music, loving his music and being his own man. Tony supported him in everything he did and loved him to bits. Michelle took after her mum mainly, that was a bit of luck. Okay. He had a very, very successful career. She met and married Paul, who Tony said was a son-in-law to die for. 1 in a million. Tony and Paul were very close. Michelle and Paul got married in Ireland, and I was privileged enough to go over there with Philip and Jamie through over and back for the weekend. And when I was talking to Dino and getting stories of bits for the day. And reminded me of one I've completely forgotten. And those of you who were there, you may have forgotten it as well, but you're going to remind you now that Tony played the leprechaun, fully dressed up Irish leprechaun, to follow around the game with a bag of golden chocolate coins to give to all the kids all day. I've completely forgotten that story, so I was back to Dino, so it's good things come out of these services because they make you remember the good times. Another of Tony's career moves was a doorman. I mentioned that earlier on. I was 18 running a pub for my dad, and it was a bit lively on a Friday night. It was a little bit lively, and my dad thought, well, right, I better get somebody to look after him. So the old man had a word with Charlie and said, Charlie, is there anybody that can look after Philip in the pub on a Friday night? Yeah, I've got a mate of mine, we'll sort that out. And that spurned my 35-year relationship and love of Tony. Along going back to those times, we were going back to the Corbers, bought the car, went to the Daily Mail. We had lots of very, very good times, lots of funny times, a lot of stories I can't tell a day. Mr. Bees here today, Mr. Griffiths, Bashers here, Clouter, Vinny, good old times. As you know, Tony changed his name by default to Sir Anthony Hunter. And I've got to tell you, all of my mates, even if they don't know Tony, they know of Tony because it's just one of my favourite stories. But he didn't do that for him. He did it for a laugh. He did it for a laugh. And he didn't, you know, he got upgrades in hotels. He got upgrades on flights. There opened a few doors for him. But do you know the doors that he opened most? He opened the doors for him to get stuff from people that he could auction at charities and give to the kids. That's what Tony used it for, and I can't think of any other better way of doing it, okay? And that was a complete one-off, and it would always be raising money for the kids. That was one of his phrases that he had, the kiddies were cerebral palsy. You can't mention Tony without mentioning his drinking. It was legendary, okay? All of us here have had a savage drink with Tony, okay? I remember last year Tony popped in, we were out in Portugal at my dad's place, and Michelle and Paul, Tony Berry bought a little place around the corner, and they popped in with Flea and this, that and the other, and Flea's in the Paul, having a laugh, this, that and the other, and we're only there for an hour, right? And when Tony went, I went, God, I'll tell you what, Tony can drink, and I said, you just worked that out. She said, how much is he had? I said, oh, he's only had about half a bottle of gin. She went, oh, well, that's not too bad, is it? I didn't tell her it was a 1.5 litre bottle. Tony tells a story when he went to Portugal, and Tony said that underwent, right, we're going to have a savage drink. So he goes into the bar, he says to the bar, right, I want 2 doubles. And Tony went, Tony, no, shut up, 2 doubles. Now you have to remember, in Portugal, they're doubles to start with. That savage drink didn't last very, very long at all. Tony had lots of sayings and lots of funny ways. He was generous to a fault. He was always giving the kids money. All of the kids who have grown up here, you've all had a tenner put in your hand by Tony. Guaranteed. Absolutely guaranteed. He always used to text in capitals. Who had a text like that? It was always in capitals. And he had that 1992 Nokia phone that he was absolutely petrified of using, so he put 4 of them off eBay just in case. He was always the first to the bar, always the first one to get a drink, which you'd have to fight him to go and get a drink. You look $1 million, doodle bit. Us girls have got to stick together. You can see it there. Tony was a pub man. He loved the crack, he loved the company. And as you know, he finished up living in the pub. And Mary said it was the happiest 13 years of their life. Tony had a jukebox in his house, and he would do nothing more than having a night in, having a drink at the bar with Mary, playing some tunes. Simple man with simple tastes. If ever the phone rang and Aunt was on there, how is your good self? However, Tony's #1 phrase in life was, it's a minor detail in life. Mr. Phil, it's a minor detail in life. When I made Tony go through a way mould, a complete one-off. A smiler, a card,